We are here back again at the Matt Show, where I do my best to try to find the coolest people that I can talk to at the intersection of tech, culture, business, and the arts. It's been a long time, but once again, back on the show, I am here today with my good friend Claude Cimeus.
There you go. You thought about it too hard. That's yeah.
Claude is the CEO and co-founder of Gatherset, a
Yeah.
platform that uses AI agents to automate the entire life cycle of event logistics, eliminating the manual, repetitive back office work that slows down event teams, unlocking faster execution. And Claude himself has a lot of experiencing managing and hosting events. Before Gatherset, Claude was the director of operations at P33 when I met him, where he led the creation and organization of Tech Chicago Week, the city's premier tech and cultural event series. It's where I made some of my best memories connecting with entrepreneurs and creatives over networking sessions that didn't really feel like networking sessions, but were better than any of the traditional networking sessions that I went to, and lit crazy parties where Claude would bring out Pusha-T to the after parties, Common, Scottie Pippen for panels, all these interesting live appearances. And I know you don't really like to be gassed up like this, but I gotta hook the people in. Claude is one of the by far most well plugged people I know out of just anybody, period. Many of Chicago's most influential CEOs, civic leaders, athletes, and musicians hold Claude in high regard. Claude is friends of or has personal professional relationships with pretty much all the Chicago major sports team owners, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, a lot of the CEOs of companies that have taken off from Chicago, like Cameo, OkCupid, United Airlines, a handful of other billionaires that Claude has exchanged hands with. And most recently, Claude hosted a fireside conversation at his church, Soul City, with his friend Kevin Warren, president and CEO of the Chicago Bears. From small, intimate to large scale and massively funded, Claude has hosted all kinds of events and is now building AI tools to help others do the same with less of a headache. Claude, welcome to the Matt Show.
Thank you. A very long introduction. I probably work too much, I guess, is probably what I'm gathering from this. But no, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me again.
Claude, I feel like since the time I've known you, you've been known to be like the nature of your work is very like mysterious. Like people don't always know exactly what Claude
Yeah.
does.
No, it's really not that mysterious. Well, before P33, I was as a product manager at different like startups from early stage like pre-seed, and then I was in Y Combinator, winter of 2018 with a startup called Orchard, got switched to DraftBit. But I mean, I was a software person, software guy for before my time at P33, like from just building software with different teams. And then at P33, my role there as director of platform was more around. I mean, it was a made up role. It was kind of like this thing that like we all kind of like made up there, and but my role specifically was around building relationships with a lot of different stakeholders of the city. Certainly, I wanted Chicago to have its own South by Southwest, so I created Tech Chicago Week and grew that to now it's the largest tech conference here in Chicago. Generates over $1 million in revenue every year now. So I'd say my role at Peter was building relationships for different reasons, things we want to get done in the city to events tech, fundraising purposes, making sure Tech Chicago continues to grow. So I don't know, but yeah, I get if you're from the outside looking in, I get it can be a little mysterious. It was not one of those jobs where there's like a set job description, you know. And I found those to be a lot of time the best kind of jobs,
Rewarding,
Yeah, more rewarding. And kind of like the job kind of fits around your personality. And but it was a great team. I mean, Brad is still, one of the best CEOs I've ever worked for, Brad Henderson. My boss there, Tiff Fair, the chief marketing officer, it was incredible. Rebecca, the whole team was just a pretty stacked team of some really, really good people, really smart people. So, yeah.
Like instead of you having to fit into the job, the whole team got around having the job fit into you to
Yeah, yeah.
express
I mean,
your
it was really a
capability.
job that like created for my personality.
Do you remember what those early conversations were like when we're like, okay, guys, like, let's make this role for Claude? And you're like,
The funny thing is, I was not looking for a job when this happened. It was very random. A very good friend of mine who was an executive there, Desiree. She actually created TechRise and to what it
shout out
is
to
today.
Desiree. Yeah, yeah.
No, Desiree, dear friend. And I remember I was at her birthday party a few years back, and it was maybe around 11 p.m. midnight. I forgot which club it was.
Where was it? It was at a club?
It was at a
Desiree
it was
had
a
her
club.
birthday party at a
It was
club?
It was actually the top part of Joy District, and we were like just chopping it up, and we were both started talking about things I want to do with our lives and what I want to do next. And I felt like, and I said, I wanted to be part of a smaller team again. Like I felt like I want to go do something where I can create something from scratch. And she said, well, how about P33? And I said, well, I don't know. Like it's not a software job. I mean, it is tech, but it would be like different from what I'm used to. But one thing led to another. Met with the COO and some other people, and ended up working out.
So now you're working on Gatherset, and like even since 2023, you had been talking about it, but you were very like purposefully low key about it.
Yeah,
And now you're letting me know like it feels like the right time to talk about it. So like why now?
it's a problem I discovered after I did Tech Week a few times. It was a thought at first, and then kind of was like, oh, maybe we should turn this into a company. If you've ever like thrown an event before, it's one of the almost like the manual process to throw an event, like the project management side of it, is the same today as it was like 20 years ago. It just hasn't really changed all that much, and it's still literally one of the most stressful jobs in the world. It's up there with like military people and like surgeons. It really should not be like that. So,
I remember
but
you telling me I was like at the Drive Capital office and you were visiting Landon and just hanging out and you were like, bro,
dude, it's the
Tech
worst.
Chicago week is
Yeah.
stressing me out.
I mean, it's really the worst. I mean, you are.
What about it? What about it was so
It's
challenging?
you're juggling so much. Well, Tech Week, Tech Week, or
Yeah,
events
just
in
like
general.
well, both.
Yeah, I mean, you're juggling so much, and it's and you're bound to drop something, and something's gonna get dropped at some point because it's all really in your head. Like you kind of create these systems, on Excel spreadsheets. It's all really done on Excel spreadsheets, and so much of it is repetitive, and so much of it is kind of mundane, and so much of it can be automated. So when you think about all the back and forth that happens between the planner and the vendors and the stakeholders, to all the countersinking, all the communication that is happening back and forth, all of that is happening over email, and all of it, especially now matched with what AI agents have been able to do over the past few months. Things that were not even possible like a year ago are now possible, even really 8 months ago are now possible, where AI agents can really accomplish like those nuanced human jobs. And you see this in other industries like law, like you see it at law firms now, where like AI agents are like looking over documents, where lawyers would spend hours of their time looking over documents, but now AI agents are doing it. See it at a lot of consulting firms. And I feel like that space is just not a space that has seen a lot of innovation. Now you see a lot of companies that do create software for the event space around like ticketing. So you think things like Luma or Partyful or Eventbrite, and all those are great companies that they've done well, and I think they're solving relevant problems. But then and then also on the other side you have things that are more like around crowd management stuff. But when it comes to the middle part, which is the project management piece, there just hasn't been anyone that's solving that. So I feel like I was the right person to solve it. I'm solving my own problem, and I have a great co-founder, and we're very early. We're just getting things started.
What was like the origin story when you like met your co-founder?
We met at we were working at a startup together, a Series A company, and I was product manager and he was my engineering manager, and so we've created software before. So we've worked together, but that was it. And then When I had this idea, I called him up. I was like, "Hey, I'm thinking of working on this. I'd love to work with you again on this, on something." So, and so yeah, we ended up clicking back.
Can you tell us anything about like the Gatherset plan or like potential features, like
Yeah,
things people might be excited? Event hosts, they're like, "Oh yeah, I could do that
for
easy."
sure. Like so there's like you know four components. When you're planning an event, there's like the planning side, deciding of like where it's gonna be, with what city it's gonna be in, what time, day, time, and all that stuff. And then you have the sourcing, so like you're sourcing sponsors or venues or speakers, and then you have the coordination piece, which is making sure everyone communication is going out at the right time, invoices are going out at the right time, and that sort of thing. And you have the management piece, which is making sure like all stakeholders are up to date on all information, which is kind of the relationship massaging part of it. So those are like the four core pieces we think about, and what we're starting with like the email piece. We've created this tool called Concierge, and the way that it works. And by the way, like event planning happens in Inbox, like everything happens over email. So our first tool is this tool called Concierge, where it sits in your inbox. Whenever you get an email from someone, it automatically categorizes it into need to respond, FYI, and into different categories. And everything that goes onto need to respond, it automatically drafts up a response for you. So when you open your computer, you can just go in your list of drafts, and you already have all of those. It's sort of like this invisible assistant that sits in your inbox and drafts up responses for, and over time learns your language and how you talk and all that stuff. So so we enable, instead of the event planner sifting through hundreds of emails
Is that
a
what you
week.
did?
Yeah, dude, it's like I
Because I
remember.
haven't quite experienced this kind of like thing, So I'm
Yeah.
trying to like put my head in your head.
So I'll give you an
And, like,
example. I'll give you an anecdote. At Tech Week, our event planner that we hired, just for one day of Tech Chicago Day, she had to deal with 7,000 emails.
What?
Yeah.
7,000?
7,000.
Damn. Because you can't possibly like look through that
You can't.
emails
You
in
just
one day.
can't. That's why things get. That's why things get lost, right? Because like as a human, you will miss things. So so Concierge is the first tool. But the way that we're working with, also like to go beyond that, we're creating custom tools for our for our customers, and that's where we're starting. We're custom like AI agents, and over time we're gonna create this kind of agentic app store where people that are throwing whatever they're throwing, they can just like pick and choose whatever agents work for what they do. My big goal for this is I really want Gatherset to be the operating system behind how the world gathers. So someday, Lollapalooza will be planned by Gatherset, to things like the World Cup, to the Super Bowl, to think every large gathering on Earth. Gatherset will be the backbone that made it happen, and so that's a big vision for the future.
Did you meet Messi yet?
I
can't
have not
recall.
met Messi.
Oh no, you're like one of the biggest Messi fans.
I am, man. That's like my lifelong idol. I've been following Messi ever since I was a little kid. Man, the Messi story is so interesting because obviously he was very successful playing for his clubs, right? For Barcelona mostly. Wasn't that successful at PSG, but obviously been successful in Miami. But he was not very successful playing for Argentina, the national team. And I've been a big fan of him and big fan of the Argentina national team for forever. The thing about him being the greatest of all time, he was already the greatest of all time in my book, was everyone was kept saying, like, you need a senior trophy with Argentina. He never had a trophy with Argentina. And so that finally happened, I believe 2021, with the Copa America win. And then in 2022, won the World Cup, and the rest is history. And I still remember that day when he won the World Cup. That game was still the greatest game I've ever seen of any sport ever. And
I remember it very well. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, I hadn't seen him play live in person, but I've recently saw him. I've seen him twice now. I've seen him play both for Inter Miami, and I've seen him play for Argentina, because Argentina had a game here in Chicago. So I prepared early. I had field passes, and so I've seen him up close, but I have not met him. But I feel like I'll meet him at some point.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you would have like interesting interaction with, I Show Speed and how he feels about
Oh, with him?
Cristiano
Oh,
Ronaldo.
wasn't he just in town last week?
Yeah, he was.
I'm not big
He's-
into like the streaming stuff. I don't
oh,
really
really?
get it all that much, to be honest. I don't think I'm their audience, but I mean, I certainly respect he's been able to do. Clearly, he's very successful at it. Um, no, I've not met Ishow Speed, but I know he's a big Ronaldo fan, and so that's where we probably disagree. I mean, I just don't think. I mean, Ronaldo is a phenomenal player, obviously, one of the greatest to ever play the game. But it's just Messi. It's just Messi is just there's a I think the difference when you're watching Ronaldo, you're like, wow, this is an incredibly athletic player. He's just an incredible human being. The stuff he's able to do with his body. When you look at Messi, you say, this is an alien. This is someone from a different planet. And I think that's really like the two trains of thoughts that, when you're looking at between Ronaldo and Messi. Like Messi, you don't even think he's human. You think he's got to be from a different. Oh my gosh! I mean, dude, he's just not of this world.
How do you spend your time these days on like a day-to-day basis, like between
Yeah.
like maybe gym, social time, work, dinners, stuff like that? Like,
a lot of my being out times has decreased being a full-time founder, right? I mean, I'm inside my house, dude, building.
you work from home?
I work from home, or I go to Landon's office, or I go to Soho, but mostly I'm from home, working from home.
Do you switch it up just to like?
I switch it up because
change
at some
things?
point you kind of realize, like there are some times it's like 9 p.m. I'm like, wow, I have not had one human interaction today,
Yeah.
in-person interaction. So, I got to switch it up sometime. But how am I spending my time? Go to the gym. I, work. I still see my friends, go to church. Yeah, no, nothing to report. I over the summer, like I do all the fun stuff, like, Summer Smash. Elliot is a dear friend who's one of the founders of it. And, met some cool people and like, saw Soulja Boy and Caleb Williams and, other people. And so the summer is fun, but outside of that, right now I've just been building. I mean, it's kind of how I'm spending my time these days, really. And then just watching TV late night, I don't know, just the typical.
What kind of stuff?
Uh,
Documentaries?
yeah, no, I mean, I think my friends know, like, I'm a big fan of, like, history and, like, historical documentaries. That's how I spend a lot of my time. Very fascinated by history overall. That was also my favorite subject in school. So I watch a lot of documentaries. I mean, I just, on Sunday, I was watching one about the the French Revolution. Family Guy, big Family Guy fan. Burn Notice. And then I miss, like, the Sunday night dramas, like Billions, Homeland, Succession. So I'm a big, like, HBO, Showtime kind of fan.
I see you sometimes you make comments about like how you try to put effort into making Chicago sports teams better, like and like get better players and coaches and management. Do you ever go out of your way to put like real work into actually like changing the roster of these Chicago sports teams? Or-
I have not. I trust they know what they're doing. Obviously they're doing their jobs, and they're better at what they do than me coming in and doing that stuff. So I'm a big sports fan, and I want us to win a championship, whether that's Bears, Bulls, Cubs, Sky. I don't care for the White Sox.
Damn, really?
I know. Yeah, I'm not a White Sox fan, so why would I care about,
Yeah, you're not a
yeah,
fan.
I'm just not a
Obviously.
fan, yeah. But, as you get, as I've been very lucky to, obviously be friends with a few of the owners and a lot of the execs at these teams, you realize they also want the same thing and are doing their best. They're really doing their best. And so I think as fans, sometimes, like, if you're away from it, you're like, you think they wake up every day thinking like they're just, don't care, but they do really care about winning. And it does suck for them, like, whenever they lose. And so I have empathy. I have some added empathy now for it. But we all want the same thing. So we want to win a championship. So, I mean, but I know it will happen, right? Because like if you remember, like the Chiefs, like they went 50 years without a championship, and then like they became like a dynasty over the past
And
few
the Cubs
years.
like 100 years
The
or
Cubs
something.
are, so you just got to be patient. Yeah, but I'm I have full faith in in the the a lot of these front offices to make sure that they're doing their job. They're doing the best they can.
You tweeted one time, if I was president, I would make podcast mics cost at least 500K each.
Yeah.
You need to get approval from the federal government to launch the
Yeah.
podcast. And that approval would have a 5-year waiting period. If you get denied, you'd have to wait 10 years to start the process again.
Oh,
What
man.
happened with you in podcasts? Do I at least pass the
No.
criteria
So
check?
obviously part of it is, part of it is a joke. But you open IG or you open Twitter, you hear some guys saying some pretty crazy stuff, and you're like, what kind of opinion is that? And so I've seen some pretty crazy. I've heard some pretty crazy stories on podcasts, and I was like, there's just something about when it's always a guy, by the way. When they have like a mic in front of them, they just go into like I remember someone said that marriage, and it was, by the way, that was his like, he was not joking. He was very serious about this. They thought it was like a really great idea. Say marriages should work like NBA contracts, where you get in and it's like, oh, I know it sounds ridiculous, but that was a real idea from a podcast, where you sign like a 4-year deal and then see how it goes, and you resign. And it's like the dumbest thing you ever heard, and it was from a podcast. So I'm pretty sure also that was I saw that on a reel, and I think that's what triggered that tweet. I think, yeah. But you hear some pretty crazy stuff.
Do you think about marriage these days?
Do I? No, I mean I think about it just like I think about any future life milestone. So yeah, I think it's an important part of. I do think it's an important part of life. So yeah, something I want to do someday.
I feel like when it comes to you and I think about relationships, you're either in the serious or unserious bucket in Claude's vocabulary.
Yeah.
Like I see you post some stuff, some guy posts some like image of his chat message with some girl or something, you're like unserious.
Right. Yeah, I know.
What makes, and you said, it's somewhere in my notes here, but you said unseriousness is like a disease or something.
Oh, man.
Okay, here I found it. You're either a serious or unserious person, and that can make or break your career and reputation.
Yep.
And that unseriousness is incurable, and there's a crisis of unseriousness.
Yep.
So what do you mean by unseriousness, and what do you have against unserious people?
Well, you really did your research. When I say unseriousness, I think I mean, what I really mean by it is just like people who are like unreliable, or people who are, I guess unserious is a good way to put it. Like, you're just unserious. Like, if you say you're going to do something, you do it. If you say you're going to get somewhere at X time, you get there at X time. And if you're not getting there at X time, you text the person, or you call the person, or you email the person and say, hey, I'm running late. I think to the core of it is that unserious really means, I really think we have deviated from some norms that have really felt traditional maybe years ago, and now where people are leaving those traditional norms, and I think we're kind of seeing the consequences of that unseriousness. And we see it you see it in a lot of things. You see it in how people date. You see it in how people work. You see it in how people live their life. You see it.
Like what?
So let's start things, let's start with work, for example. You see stuff like that says bare minimum Mondays, right, as an example. It's just like, what do you mean bare minimum Mondays? Like, you sign up to do a job. You're getting paid to do said job. You're expected to get things done at a certain level of quality, in a certain level of time, time limit. What do you mean like bare minimum Mondays? What does that mean? Or stuff like, I don't dream of labor. And you hear these things, like, to me, like someone like that I think is very unserious. You do you as long as you're happy. I think it's meant well, like most things. It's meant well, but no. There are things that makes you happy that are actually really bad for you. So no, so that's not really the best way to do, that's not entirely the best way to go, to look
Drugs,
at life.
infidelity,
Yeah, I mean,
maybe murder if you're a
right.
really
If you're,
sadistic person.
yeah, like, so, if that makes you happy, then definitely don't do it, right? So, um,
Have you ever hated your job though?
have I ever
Like,
hated my job? I would probably say no. I don't think I've had that experience.
hmm.
I've been very lucky. I've been very lucky to have really good managers. I have not had a bad manager in my life. And your manager makes the job. And like all my previous managers or my previous CEOs, like I'm on texting basis with all of them. Like there's no bad blood, nothing. Like I was literally texting my former boss at P30 this morning. We grabbed coffee like 2 weeks ago, catching up. So and I get that, but part
That's
of it is
blessed, bro.
yeah, it's but part of it is because also I think I do a pretty good job at like
Of positioning yourself for those
yeah,
situations. Yeah.
and also I tend to vet the place I'm gonna go to. I just don't take the job just to take a job. Like I think about how does this ladder up into what I want to do next? How does this how's this help build a stronger network? How does I think about a lot of things that I guess some people don't think about. But now I've had maybe a couple coworkers at some point in my career that like we just didn't get along. But when I think about it, maybe like two, yeah. So it's pretty good. Not terrible.
To take a random pivot,
Yeah.
and this is kind of relevant to like this moment in time. People who vote for a party you disagree with are never your enemies. They're citizens like you, with nuanced feelings, interests, and opinions. Family and friendships are always more important to your life than whoever is president. And I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
But you go on TikTok and you're bombarded. At least
Yeah.
sometimes I've been doom scrolling and I've been seeing like hundreds of these. If you're a MAGA man, you're a danger to society, or if you're far left, you're corrupting the nation. Or why are you Christian? Jesus is not God. Convert to Islam. Or why are you Muslim? Being Islam is ridiculous. Convert to Christianity. And people are just like debating endlessly, and and I feel like people are on these missions to just kind of like impose their beliefs on people as if it's more important than
Yeah.
family and friendship and these kinds of things.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, especially the past week, right? With everything that's going on. I'll say this, yeah. Gosh, I just feel, and I'm usually on the side of like, man, the world has never been better. Where people are living longer, we have better science advancements for different things. We have more
That's true.
vaccines than anything. And
Most of the
objectively, the
time
world is
we're in a
actually,
little bit
like
better.
if you think about the early to mid 20th century, like
Yeah. The
the world
world's
was like,
usually getting a
yeah,
little bit
like
better
it was.
day
I
by day.
mean, literally the whole world was fighting, right? And then there's like threat of nuclear war every few days. So, and I'm usually on that side of like the world has never been better. But over the past few days, actually, it's crazy because I was texting this with some friends maybe last night. I was like, man, I feel like the world seems a bit bleak right now, very bleak. It does feel like we're more divided than ever, and it doesn't feel like. And usually like the people in charge are the ones that's like, okay, let's get together, let's unite. I feel like the people who are in charge right now are feeding into the to the division. So that's not helpful. But to the core of it, and this might seem a bit more philosophical, I think that people generally are longing for something. And people are longing for different things, whether they're longing for, money, they're longing for some sort of fulfillment, and they're trying to find that fulfillment in a lot of things. For a lot of people these days, it's politics, right? I mean, it's such a big part of people's identity. whether they're trying to find that fulfillment in work, in money, and other things that are, they're not bad things, right? But I think really it all comes down to people have turned politics into their god, and they've turned politics into some kind of end all be all.
Yeah.
Um, and politics. It's a good thing to be engaged civically. I do think it's a shame that so many people don't vote, especially young people. You know, a right that so many people in the world don't have, that you get to choose who your leaders are. I mean, it's such a privilege to do that. And so many young people don't do it. They'll yap about it, yap about every societal issue, and they won't vote. So that's a problem. So you do need to get involved in politics. I do believe that, but you cannot be in too deep to the point where you're celebrating the assassination of an innocent person who disagreed with you, no matter who disagreed with you or said terrible things, and you can't find yourself in a place where you're celebrating the assassination of a you know of an innocent person, especially someone who's husband or father. And you see this obviously. You saw this obviously with the United Health Insurance CEO assassination. You see this with what happened last week. It's just you can't do that. I mean, if you find yourself doing that, you're in a little too deep, and you need to like take yourself out. A little bit. Take yourself out of the matrix.
I feel like people are so polarized on this stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
And
but that's why I love history, because you realize it's a cycle. This happens. It's not the first time we're going through it. We went through this. Talking about polarization. I mean, 60s and 50s when you and I would be drinking from different water fountains. So you think about the LA riots of the 90s. You think about the riots of the 2020. You can feel like you're a bit powerless, to be honest. But what you can do is how you get out of the algorithm and just get in the real world. And for the most part, in the real world, people are living together. People are getting along. And when you meet someone new, the first question you ask them is not who they voted for, right? Like that probably never came up, and you probably had a really good conversation with that person. So I think it is a good thing to be involved in politics. It's a good thing to be involved civically. And I do think there are some real problems that we're dealing with currently in this country. And I think the people who are in charge are making things worse, from a national level. But we've been through bad presidents before. We'll get through this.
how did you not necessarily get involved civically, but like one day you met JB Pritzker and you formed a relationship with him, and or Lori Lightfoot or Brandon Johnson? Like, how does this kind of thing happen, and what circles do you need to be, or like what situations did you find yourself in, and which this kind of stuff unfolded?
I I live in Chicago, so so the people that you'll meet will probably be Chicago politicians, so or Illinois politicians. Look, I think I'm a firm believer in Chicago, and I think Chicago is we have a lot to fix, but also there's a lot of great things going on here. So I don't actually don't remember the first time I met any of these people. I don't remember the exactly first time, but they've all been helpful in different ways to advance tech and business in Chicago. I mean, JB, obviously.
Was it intentional? Were you like, I want to meet these people? And
I don't think it was intentional. It wasn't. I think JB, I was invited to a luncheon that he was doing with a few business leaders in Chicago, and I was invited to that to meet him. And from that point, like he's always been helpful to Tech Week, to the work we're doing at P33. I think he's doing a good job, and he's always been, and he's also a very kind person.
yeah,
Like, it
JB's
really
a
is.
solid guy.
Yeah, a
I
very
agree.
kind person. So yeah, and that's kind of, I had the pleasure of hosting him, I think, a couple of times now for fireside chats, which has been great. So he's like outside of, like I do think he's doing a good job from a governance standpoint, but also he's just a really good person as well.
On September 9th, 2024, you tweeted,
Man,
I
those tweets.
haven't had milk and cereal in so long.
Yeah.
Been years. Have you had milk and
The tweets
cereal
are gonna
since
get
then?
me. I have not. I don't think I have.
Why? You haven't had milk and cereal, bro?
Not since. No, it's been
You
a
don't
while.
you don't eat
I'm not
milk
like a
and cereal
breakfast.
for
I'm
breakfast?
just not a breakfast person.
What do you eat for breakfast? You don't eat
Just
breakfast?
in general, not really. No.
When do you eat?
Like lunch.
First
and,
thing in the day? Like around
yeah,
what time?
lunch and dinner. I just don't have the time. Maybe now I have more time since I'm like at home most of the time. But
Normally, at what point in the day is your first intake of food?
my first intake of food, I would say, maybe like 11 a.m.
11?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I'm not one of those people that can fast till like end of day. So that's not gonna be me. But
it's not like you're trying to fast. You're just like...
No, it's not that I'm trying to. I think honestly I'm just lazy. I don't cook. So
that's my next question.
Yeah. I don't cook at all.
You don't cook?
Yeah. Every year I probably eat a home cooked meal, maybe like twice a year, maybe two, yeah.
And
it's usually because someone invited me to their house or something.
But you're like a professional eating outer.
Yeah. Yes, boss.
You've had like a lot of meals across Chicago's best restaurants. So like, what are some of your favorite dinner spots? Or like, can you put us on to like
for
where
sure.
to go?
I love Haitian food because I'm Haitian. So there's a spot in Rogers Park called Cuisine Creole. So I go there. I got on if I'm missing home. I go there. But my next favorite type of food is Italian food. So Elina's is a great spot. That's on the Grand. Man, great pasta. Tredita, also great spot. Fioretta, great spot. What else? What else do I eat? Adelina is solid. There's a new one in Fulton Market, almost right by my house, which is great. But I'm a lot of people, and I'm pretty sure you have this, probably have this in here. I'm a big Chipotle fan, so if I'm
we
not,
talked about that in the last interview.
So if I'm not out,
and Velvet Taco, you said it was the best taco place.
It was, I take that back. I do take that back, and that caused a firestorm.
Online,
my goodness. No, I take that back on Velvet Taco, but Chipotle is still solid.
Because I said if you ate at any other taco place, and you said
no.
I
just didn't, to be honest. But Chipotle is solid, though. I love Chipotle. If I'm not out at some dinner, I just grab a burrito. Because where else are you gonna find a full meal that's mostly healthy for $12?
Yeah.
Right? A full meal. You have carbs, salads. You have protein.
You also have a lot of like command over what they give you.
Right.
Have you ever seen like a TikTok or like where they say, "Give me one bean"?
Yeah.
Give me
I don't have
grain of
TikTok,
rice.
but I
You don't?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, never been on there.
Really? You've never been on TikTok?
Never been.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was me at one point for several years.
Yeah. Yeah, no, never been. But I think I've seen what you're talking about on Reels, though.
On Reels? You said one time that you hold a PhD in gala party small talk.
Oh, man.
What is the art of gala small talk? Like,
it's pretty straightforward, but I think I do think I have an ability to, like, I feel like in conversations, I feel like I'm a decent conversationalist. So like I engage pretty well when I'm talking with someone. And I think I ask really good questions. But it's not like deep questions. It's like stuff like when I meet someone at a setting like that, like a gala or a dinner, I tend to make them feel like we've known each other for a long time, if that makes sense. And so that's where that came from. And I think that night I was at some event and I was like, wow, I did this really well. I should tweet about it.
You said early in your career, money should come last. You focus on reputation, then network, then opportunities, then money.
Yep.
Why does that unfold this way?
Money is a result. Like, and when I say money, I mean like big money. Of course, like you need money to like pay your rent and eat. All that stuff. Early on, but the big money, like the big wins, is like a result of these things coming into, clashing. So like your reputation, your network. What else did I say? Opportunities, right? Because your reputation is simply how people remember you as, right? So if people remember you as being honest and as being someone reliable and as being someone who gets tough things done, and then you go into that leads into your network, which is like so many people now know about Matt being a great, X and Y and being great at his job and and from there more people know about you because people simply just talk about you, right? In a positive light. It can also have the reverse.
I know.
Where like someone, if you suck at your job or like you just suck as a person, people talk about you as well, right? So but on the positive side is that people talk about you and that grows your network. And from your network, that's how you find really good opportunities. And the best opportunities are usually not gonna be found on a job board somewhere. It's usually someone emailing someone say, hey, I'm looking for this person for this role. Who do you know? That would be great for it. And then this person reaches out to someone they know and say, hey, so and so reached out to me. They're looking for someone, and I think you'd be great for it. Should I connect you? And this thing? Well, yeah, connect me, and you connect them, and if it works out, it works out. And from there, you find the big money. But it's something that takes years. I mean, it's not like a short term thing,
Yeah.
right? So it takes years to build that. So yeah, so that's what I meant by that. Is that you just got to be patient. I think, yeah, people are looking for quick wins. People are looking for like quick money. Like the best things in life really do take time. So you just have to be patient.
Ironically, I've met people looking for big money with their reputation, and they view people in this like vertical hierarchy where they're either better than someone or someone is below them.
Yeah.
And if it's like some front desk receptionist or a service worker or something, they just kind of like dismiss them or treat them
Yeah.
like shit, and because they don't view them as useful.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, and that's really sad. By the way, I think that is a result of someone being prideful, and that's probably the worst quality you could have: extreme pride in yourself. I think those people are not useful. People that can look at someone and say they're not useful, right? So I tend to think those people don't really make it that far. People that
I
have
think
a reputation.
sometimes they do.
Sometimes they do, and it happens, and also like a lot of times they have parents that have called in
Yeah.
favors and all that stuff. They have like other forces at play, but for the most part, from what I've seen, to make it, especially in tech and those industries like where reputation matters, is if you're coming from a place. Now look, if your parents are billionaires, like you're gonna be fine whether you're an asshole or not. But if you're truly coming from the bottom, it's hard to make it, being a jerk, because people will be like, I don't want to work with this person. So for the most part, from what I've noticed, outside of those nepo scenarios, people were kind, people would get stuff done, people were reliable. You make it far.
One of the coolest people I ever interviewed was Nate Jones.
Yep.
Who I met through Tech Chicago Week
Yep, that's my homie.
2022. So
Yep.
thanks for that layup.
Of course.
And when we talked, he said Chicago has massive latent potential that's going to require the city's economic and political leadership to come together and build a Chicago where people can cook.
Yep.
So in my perspective, I don't know if I know anybody who's better tied to both the economic and the political sides of the city who's closest to my age.
Yeah.
So what do you think can be done to strengthen that relationship in a way that lets like founders and people cook?
Yeah. Well, I think we've made great progress overall for the past few years. And I think a big part of that is JB being governor. And JB, obviously, before as governor, started in 1871, and he was a tech investor. And so a lot of the work that he was doing before he was governor, that he's continued to do this work. So I do think we've been able to make a lot of progress because of him when it comes to that. And stuff we're doing now with quantum computing, stuff his office has led has been incredible. So I would say continue to go that route. Continue, at least I can, from a state level, Illinois level, I would say is continue to make it easier for founders to build here. So things like, the angel investing tax credit should not take a few months to be approved. Like this is something that should get approved in a couple weeks. But it's not. So government is just slow in general. So you just have to deal with that. But I would say taxes got to be more preferable for, for business owners and tech founders and investors, making this a paradise when it comes to taxes and when it comes to innovation is very important. And we will need to work with public policy leaders to make it happen. And I think I think they're doing their best. Now, there's more that can be done for sure, but right now it's like, I think they're doing what they can.
Tell me about your story growing up in Haiti.
I had a really good childhood. I came here when I was 12, I think.
Where specifically in Haiti did you grow up?
Cap-Haïtien. It's north, up north, yeah. And my parents are both pastors, and I grew up, my older brother. I grew up with my older brother. We had a lot of friends and played soccer growing up. I was also on Haiti's national robotics team, where we flew out to Atlanta in 2008 or 2009, whenever that was, for us to participate in the Robotics World Cup. So, life was pretty simple.
Oh, I'm in the World Cup?
I think I was just really excited to be in a new country with my friends.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it was fun. We did not win. I think Japan or South Korea won. But life was very simple. I think that's one way I'd describe it. It's just life was very simple. Like no one was thinking about, what college they're gonna get into or what type of work they're gonna do. And, it was about what you see in front of you. And I think there's a lot of lessons to learn in that.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think, in contrast to here, it just feels like kids early on just have so much pressure, especially like if you live in the city. Like, I've learned from some of my friends who are parents, like telling me like even like middle schools, like people have to apply for now and things like that. It's like, or pre-K or even not even that. It's like pre-K. Like, so, just feels like there's a lot of pressure on kids here in the States to perform, whether it's in sports or academia and different things. And they're not bad things, but I just feel like life is just not simple here.
Yeah.
And growing up, life was very simple for me.
When it feels weird to me. If you're so young, you're like still under the age of 15, 16, and you're given this pressure to like rank into some kind of academic or athletic or like, it's just like, I don't know.
But but it was fun. It was fun. We had a lot of fun, and I do miss it from time to time.
You ever visit?
Yeah, I try to go back every year.
Kids in Creole. It's in Rogers Park.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
You gotta go. Yeah. I'll take.
What's good Haitian food?
It's a lot of rice and beans. Typical Caribbean stuff. But I don't know. Griot is good. Tiggy It's like a rice, like a black rice. Right. Yeah. What else? Yeah, plantain. Yeah, those things.
This is the stupidest question I have out of all of these. Would you spend a week hanging out with Messi and Meek Mill, or a 5-minute chat with Jesus?
Wow.
Because I know you love all of these three people very much.
5 minutes would Jesus be like physically? I'd physically see him. Oh man, probably 5 minutes with Jesus. I mean, I think if it was like I don't physically see him, I feel like I can do it now. I guess I'd probably go with Messi and Meek Mill. But I mean, I just have so many questions about the world and life and the universe. I mean, well, the crazy, I actually don't even think Messi speaks English. So for me to have I'd have to learn some Spanish to have a conversation with him. So no, I do. Yeah, sitting down with Jesus for 5 minutes in person would be cool.
Yeah, you and Meek Mill and Messi for a week would seem maybe a bit chaotic. Trying to communicate.
There's like two very different people, you know. um, I don't even know what we'd do for a week, you know. I'd have really good questions for all of them. I'd probably have more questions for Meek because I feel like Messi is kind of like more straightforward. Like he plays soccer and obviously is the best to ever do it. But Meek, like I'd have a lot of questions for him. I'd have a lot of questions for Jesus. But it's the first time I think I've ever put those three names together in anything. So something there to be said. But yeah, probably have a lot of questions for Jesus, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to talk about with like what people can look forward to with Gatherset, or do you want to conclude with something about your faith? And I know you're like very strong in your faith, and
Yeah.
I respect that about you.
No, yeah. I mean,
because
I
you're
think-
open to people too.
yeah, totally. And I think this alludes to
Like
my
Kendrick, you're the wonderful kind of Christian who's not like,
yeah.
oh, you are Muslim or you are Jewish and this doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense to me. And you know, you've embraced all other kinds of religions through your friends and things like that.
Yeah, no, I respect people what they believe. I know also what I believe, but I respect what they believe. I think for me, you know, I grew up in like a household with two pastors. Like both my mom and my dad are pastors. So it's like, I mean, I grew up in the church, like literally and figuratively grew up in the church. So, but I think, you know, the older I get, the more you realize like, and this alludes to the earlier point about politics and how I think so many people just made it their God or made it their religion is that, you know, you're always looking for like something that you think is just gonna just like ultimately fulfill you.
That you can anchor on to.
Yeah, you can anchor onto. And that's such a good way to put it. If I were to go back to my 14-year-old self and I show him like what kind of life I have now, my 14-year-old self would be like, whoa, you've made it. You know, you have a nice place downtown. You have great friends. You have great access. You have, you know, means and, you know, you're, you know, backstage at concerts, you're courtside at NBA games, like you're living the life. Like, but look at my life now. I'm like, no, that's, you know, it pales. Like it just doesn't feel like I'm striving for more. Like I'm a very ambitious person. So like realizing that whatever you're longing for and whatever you're fulfilling, what you think is gonna ultimately fulfill you is definitely not gonna come from work or money or accolades. If that were the case, the richest people in the world would be the happiest people. And I can generally tell you that most of them are not.
Or even the most like systemically powerful people.
Right. You know,
You think
like
if you achieve a certain position,
if you do that,
you can,
then everything will be made
Yeah.
right. And you do this, I think, when you're young. Like I remember when I was in middle school, I was like, whoa, when I make it to high school, then everything will be right. Because like you have more autonomy.
if only
you
I
have-
get elected president, then
Right.
everything will
If
be all right.
only you can do that. But you realize like through your whole life, you keep saying this
Then you
over
look
and
at the
over.
president, you're like, what is this guy doing?
Right. So what I fundamentally believe is that the ultimate fulfillment, the ultimate thing you're longing for, is in God. You know, it's in Jesus, and it's not anything else. And what my thesis, my personal life thesis is that humans try to make everything else, that thing, that God, and that can, that idol, like it can come from, it can appear to be like career success, it can appear to be, family success and all that stuff, but I just don't think, that stuff, at least for me, and this is weird coming from an ambitious person, right? Because I still want to achieve things and I want to do big things. I want to buy a sports team. I want to do all that stuff. But I have come to the realization that, I think the motives have changed. And it's more about like what you can do for others. How can you improve the world? And, and I'm obviously not perfect at it. No one is. I'm never going to be perfect at it. Of course, you're going to have moments where like, you think you're the man and things like that,
of course.
But
you get pulled back and forth.
yeah, I get pulled back and forth,
the
and it's like this,
distractions of worldly success and accolades and praise and feeling good about
Right.
whatever you're doing,
But then
and
after that, you're like
pride, and then you realize it's kind of
fleeting.
fleeting.
It's vapor.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's vapor. And the last thing I think about is, you know, it does give you a sense of humility and make you less stressed out about life and less anxious about things when you realize so much of life is just not under your control.
Mm.
It's not. And as much as, and especially, and this is probably weird to say in such an individualistic culture like the US, where you're like, no, I want to achieve things because I put in the work and I'll do that. But if you think about it, you didn't choose the family you're born into. You didn't choose the gender you have. You didn't choose the race that you're born into. You didn't choose the city you're born into. You didn't choose the year you're born into. You didn't choose the century that you're born into.
I think about the times that we were born in a lot.
Right.
Like the fact that we were born in the 2000s or the 1990s.
Yeah,
Or
very different.
it's any other time.
Right.
No, literally. We could have been born hundreds, thousands of years any other
Right.
time, but we're alive right now.
You're alive right now. If I were born
Living in this
like,
unique
you know,
world of his.
the 4th century, there would be no tech week then. You know? You know, so but all that is not under my control. So for me, it's like, you know, of course I have plans for my life and I have things I want to do and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I don't know what's best for my life. You know, it's like, I think I do, but you know, every now and then I get a reminder that I probably don't. And there's this theory that I like from he's like my favorite preacher, thinker person, and he's a, you know, almost philosopher. He passed away a couple years ago, but the guy named Tim Keller, you know, he usually talks about like this "I'm dumb now" theory, which is, you know, when you're 10 years old, you think about things you used to do when you were 6. You're like, oh man, I was so stupid when I was doing that. And when you're 20, you think about things you were doing when you were 15. You're like, oh man, I was so dumb. You know, you cringe at these things. When you're 30, you think about things, you know, you did when you were 20 that you cringe at. And it just turns out you're dumb now. You don't know what's best. And it's you just have to live your life with a posture of humility of like,
Yeah.
you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You really
could
don't.
be in over your head at any moment.
You know.
Yeah.
And yeah, so much of you just don't have that much control, you know. So you do what you can, and you work hard, you do what you can, all that you physically can, and you leave the rest to God.
Well, thank you so much, Claude, for being on the Mash Show. If there's anything else you want to plug, any future updates,
I got nothing to plug, man.
Stuff.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, man.
Yeah, for sure. That's it.
Cool. Well,
all right.
Now we're good. And I'm signing out. See you guys next time.